immediately taught me the value of knowing your body and reading your own test results. I think finding a balance between not psyching yourself out and also being empowered by information can be a tough line to toe. But if I hadn't, I think I would be in a very different spot today. So I actually find there was an opportunity to grow instead of, like, while the tone completely shifted for the rest of my treatment, they said I was stage 4, my recurrence rate is 100%, even with me currently being NED, it will come back. But now I have a sense of agency over my journey that I didn't have before.
I would say that there were probably 2 main points in my journey where I had to advocate for myself. The first one I feel like is very similar for a lot of people, where I had to advocate to actually get my diagnosis, because I don't think a lot of doctors have ever seen this disease and really know what's going on. And in the same breath, I think a lot of the symptoms can be, like you heard all of us say our symptoms, and everybody can have a wide range of symptoms. So it's very hard to pinpoint what the disease is. But I was the one that had to, the physician who was seeing me ran tests and everything was coming back normal, but I knew that something was wrong. So that's when I advocated for myself, and I asked her to please order a salivary cortisol test so that could be performed. And she ordered the test, and she said, I put in a referral for an endocrinologist, but it takes 4 months to get in to see one, so I would make your appointment as soon as you can. But then the next morning, I guess my body took things into its own hands, and I ended up in the ER, so I kind of took the fast track lane there. But I did have to advocate for a diagnosis. I kind of diagnosed myself, I guess. I was on the trail. I just got there a little too late. The second time that I had to advocate for myself was after I failed the clinical trial and had developed congestive heart failure. And I still had a very active tumor, and my Cushing's was getting worse and worse. And again, the doctor that I was seeing at the time told me, I guess now we'll just start chemotherapy and essentially kind of see what happens. Maybe you'd be a candidate for surgery. Maybe you'll just be on chemo until you can't tolerate it anymore, and then you die. And for me, I left that appointment and felt very hopeless and very upset. And I really felt like she was just kind of throwing in the towel and not really doing everything in her power to help me fight this to the best of my ability. So I called her a few days later and I said, I really feel like you're just giving up on me, and I'm not ready to give up. And I really, really think that I need to have surgery. IV chemotherapy is going to work on microscopic disease. It's not going to get rid of this large tumor in my body. And she told me that 99 out of 100 surgeons would not touch me. And I said, okay, but you need to find the one who will. So she found me a surgeon who was willing to do my surgery, and I owe that man my life. He retired the week after my surgery, so it was divine intervention, perfect timing. But I do not think I would be here today without him doing surgery. So I think it's really important. If you think that, something sounds wrong, I don't think it's wrong to bring something up with a doctor. Yes, maybe they have more education than you do, but if something doesn't feel right, you shouldn't be afraid to question something or bring something up with them.
Okay, so Kelly has heard this story, and Dr. Del Rivero has heard this story. Remember the part where I said local doctors should like defer to experts? My husband's local oncologist said, I think he should have liver resection surgery. We have a really good liver surgeon. So we said, okay. We didn't know about NIH at this point. So we said, okay. So we met with him. He was great. Then we found out about NIH. And we went back to him and I said, we are considering, because I had to do all the talking, we are considering going to NIH for this surgery. And he said, they don't do surgery. They are a research hospital. And I said, they do surgery, and they have a surgeon who has resected adrenal tumors. How many have you done? And he said, liver metastases are liver metastases, and it doesn't matter what kind of cancer they are. And I said, okay. And my husband got up, and I got up, and we left. And a month later, 2 months later, we were at NIH. So don't ever let your local doctor tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. Again, to Raquel's point.
So in my case, the moment that I have to, how do you say it? To advocate for was right at the beginning, because they couldn't find what was wrong with me. Like all the tests were coming right, correct, everything was good, but my pain in my chest, and then when I talked to my friend and I told him, I think that was the key word, and I was already reading my body, like my round face and the inflammation in my body. I think that sparked to him that I needed to have my cortisol tested, and that was the key point, because I jumped from there to go immediately to the endocrinologist who could test it, and we found out that I had the tumor. So I just saved myself several months of running around and not knowing what was going on. I think that was the best moment I had.
Thank you. Okay, and the next question, and I don't have a magic wand, I wish I did, but if we could change 3 things about the journey outside of a cure, so the journey as a whole, if there were 3 things about this adrenal cancer journey that we could change or improve, what would they be?
The 3 things that I would change would be better diagnosis tools for regular physicians that are seeing this on a regular basis. I went to the doctor for a year trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I was gaining weight rapidly, severe fevers, severe hot sweats, mood swings like crazy. And all they would have had to do was take a cortisol test to know that my cortisol was at toxic levels. And then they could have done testing from there to find out why. Another thing is we need more support groups. We need more people that understand what we're going through, because this is a really lonely disease. We need people that are going to stand up for us, that are going to cheer for us, that are going to cry for us, cry with us, cheer with us. And then on like the adrenal insufficiency part of this, like once we've gone through this battle, we all now have to deal with like adrenal insufficiency and adrenal crises. And with my experience, my own personal ER doesn't even know how to treat that. Like I come in and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Like these hospitals need to be educated on what an adrenal crisis is or adrenal insufficiency is. One person told me that I talked to, well, just tell them you have Addison's disease. That'll get them to thinking. And I'm like, well, but I have adrenal insufficiency. So, I know it's the same thing in a concept, but mine's different because of the ACC and not because of the Addison disease. So there needs to be more education put out to hospitals. and to paramedics to teach them how to treat people with adrenal insufficiency, adrenal cancer, and they need to look at medical alert bracelets. I have never once had anybody look at my medical alert bracelet, and I have it tattooed on my arm. And I've had to tell people on an airplane when I went into a crisis, I need this shot, I need your help. I've had to tell my paramedics, I've had to tell emergency room doctors, this is what you need to do. I shouldn't be having to tell you what you need to do. You need to know what you need to be doing. Airline attendants, it's a different story. But, you know, EMTs and hospital doctors should know how to treat somebody, you know, and not suspect that, oh, you're just coming for drugs or you're just coming for this, you know. It's frustrating when they don't understand how to treat you and how to take care of you because they go to medical school and you expect them to know these things, you know.
Yeah.
Grace is like, I don't want to talk.
No, I definitely agree. I think we need more widespread, up-to-date information in terms of research that has been done around ACC because my local oncologist, I have since fired him, but, you know, he, I believe, was reading out of a textbook, and he was just going off of very outdated statistics. And yeah, so I would definitely say that. And I lost my train of thought, so I will hand back to Mike.
Understandable. I get it. I would say, aside from, I'm sure a lot of us all want like the same things, but trying to find something different, like better quality of life that also prolongs our life, even if it just means like living with the disease. Even after like being NAD, you still have so many things you have to deal with. And, you know, just some of the things that I read in the support groups and just looking at how I felt last year kind of just breaks my heart that we all have to go through these things. And like the people in the ACC community are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. And so it breaks my heart to see everybody go through the things that they're going through. And so, you know, no cancer is easy, but this is definitely a tough one. And, you know, we were talking earlier, this, like, you kind of have to be a different kind of breed to really tough it out and come out on the other side okay. Another thing I would say is maybe more like acceptance from insurance companies to approve things when a doctor says, hey, I think this might work, or maybe we should try this. That's another thing I've witnessed here lately, and it's just kind of like, okay, how are we going to figure out what might work or what doesn't work, you know, and get more data if there aren't new things that are tried. And then I would say, I mean, I'm just going to echo off of like what you said. When you said textbook, reading out of a textbook, it brought back a memory of me. I think this was sometime last year when I was in the ER for some side effect or something I was having, because I was constantly going because I was worried something was wrong. And most of the time I just got sent home, and they were like, we don't really know what to do. There was a nurse who came in, and I would always get asked what I had, and the lady said, oh my goodness, you just brought me back to medical school. We only read just a little tiny paragraph about your cancer, and I haven't heard about it since. So that just kind of goes to show how little is known about it, and most of the time they never hear about it ever. And there's no telling how out of date that information that she read was. So yeah, I think more up to date, more concise, across the board information would be wonderful. So
I wish there was a more holistic approach to healthcare in general, but specifically rare cancers, because I think if you try to manage very specific symptoms, you can miss a whole condition that if you had targeted curing the condition or managing the entire condition, would have been able to manage those symptoms anyways. And that would then improve quality of life. And I definitely think more support for the chronic aspect of adrenal cancer, because once you're considered incurable, they just tell you to go live your life until you have to go live in a hospital room, and then you go live your life outside of the hospital, and then you go back live in it. So I have found the support groups and the information I have gained through them has literally saved my life, but I have had to find all of that support myself. All of the hospitals, particularly Idaho has very, very little young adult cancer support across the board, from health to like physical health to mental health. But I wish I had had more support about finding more support and not having to advocate so hard for what seems like should be basic care.
I don't know that I exactly have 3 things that I would want to change, but I will share what I would like to change. I think earlier diagnosis with this disease is so important. I think the main problem with this disease is that we are finding it many times too late or very late. So I don't know about all of you, but I was diagnosed when I was stage 4, maybe stage 3, verged on stage 4. So I don't know what the answer is, but it seems like this disease is affecting more and more young women. When you look at the literature, it says that it typically affects women who are in like their 50s or 60s, but if you look at us, we are majority young women. So it seems like, we go to a gynecologist and they do a breast exam, or they do a pelvic exam, or a man goes to his doctor, or they do the prostate exam. Like, it seems like there has to be some sort of solution where there can maybe be earlier detection or earlier screening. And maybe that's just more knowledge amongst doctors where, hey, if you start to, your patient starts to report any of these signs, immediately just do the cortisol test. It's a blood test or a salivary test. You're not really going to extreme lengths to diagnose this, and then you have a better time of actually, understanding what's wrong, and then you can go from there. So I think just an earlier diagnosis would have helped a lot of people in our situation. The second thing that I would want to change is kind of what people have been speaking to, but just like the resources or like the sense of community. I was almost a year into my diagnosis before I found a single person with ACC. That was very, very isolating and disheartening. I felt so alone. I felt like I was just waiting for my death to happen. And then finally I found a girl who had been living with it for 5 years, and I finally felt like a glimmer of hope. And it wasn't until I put myself out there and had articles written about me, and then people started reaching out to me and told me about these Facebook groups where there are so many resources available and so many other people battling this disease. I mean, I don't know, it seems kind of silly that a doctor would point you in the direction of a Facebook group. I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but it seems like it would be very helpful because this disease is something that is so rare. So finding other people with it is very helpful, not just for feeling less alone, but also providing a sense of hope, and then also leading people in the direction of the experts, which I think is very, very, very important.
I absolutely agree with that. I think for me, one of the things that I would like to change is the early detection. I think that is very, very important. I was stage 3 when I found out that I had cancer. So it was very scary. Also, I think that we need, this type of cancer needs funding. There's not enough, I don't know how much, but I was watching the other day the news, and they were talking about breast cancer, and they have billions of dollars invested in research, treatment, help, everything. And for us, I don't see anything. So we are, this group, which I think it's wonderful. But if there was funding, there would be tests. If there was funding, there would be treatment, early treatment, more support, awareness. We all have to work. I have to work. I need to find a new job. And sometimes even at our jobs, they do not understand what you're going through. And that is really, really tough, because besides you are going through a difficult situation, health situation, you also have to deal probably with unfairness at your job, because you are being evaluated badly and with ignorance. So I think if there was funding and more information outside, we, the ones that are living with this, and the people that might be in the future diagnosed, would have a better treatment, because it's, it's a complete holistic type of treatment that we need for this. And it doesn't stop when you finish your chemo. It doesn't stop when you go out of the surgery. I am living, thank God, 2 years after my, the surgery, and I've been showing no recurrence and no active cancer, but I still struggle with my speech. I still struggle with my memory, my balance, a lot of issues. And I know we need more help, and there's no more help, so we need to change that.
All right, so the benefit of going last is everybody else says everything that you've already thought. The only thing that I have to add is it seems like, from my, armchair expert view of the Facebook groups, it seems like when Mitotane works, it's magic. And when it doesn't work, it's not magic. It would be great, I think, if we could figure out, if you doctors, research science people, not me, could figure out when Mitotane is going to work and when it isn't. Because if it's going to work, you can deal with the side effects. But if it doesn't work, why stay on it? I mean, it's nasty stuff. So that's all I have to add.
Thank you. And Kathleen, you're going to go first for the last question. What would you say to someone who's watching this video that is newly diagnosed?
I would say that there is hope, and your story, my husband's story, does not define any of your stories. Your stories are yours. I would say find an expert, and your story is yours.
I think that you have to have the right doctor. In my case, I hold his hand with one phrase that he said: "You had cancer, you don't have cancer anymore. And you had the most important part of the treatment done." So for me, it's my mantra every day. I wake up in the morning and I say, I don't have cancer anymore. I have the side effects, but I don't have it anymore. So I'm holding to that. So there's hope, and you have to be very strong in your heart and in your mind.
Okay, to somebody who is newly diagnosed, I guess I would say a few things. One is, you know your body best. So advocate, advocate, advocate. If something does not feel right and a doctor is telling you that everything is fine, find a new doctor or do something, but you know your body best and you need to advocate for your own health. Your health is your most important thing. So you need to be your own best advocate. The second thing that I would tell somebody who is newly diagnosed is, yes, this is a very serious and very scary disease. It should not be, taken lightly. But that being said, I think that there does need to be an aspect of hope, because you cannot fight this feeling so hopeless and down and dismal. Kind of in that same breath, you need to find an expert. This is not something that you mess around with for a few months and see what works and what doesn't, and then go see an expert. If you have the means to see an expert, see an expert. If your oncologist or doctor is willing to work with an expert, have them do that, because that is so, so, so important. I cannot say how many times I log onto the Facebook group and people are like, I don't know what to do, or I don't know who to see, and a lot of people don't know who the experts are or where to go. So I think, do your research and find the experts, because I think finding them early on is very, very important, a very important part of your journey. And then lastly, I would say just do everything you can to find the support groups. I will say the support groups, like the Facebook groups, have helped me immensely, because I did feel so very alone, and I felt like this disease was so rare, and I was really fighting it by myself, and I couldn't find anybody else with the disease, and it felt like such a hopeless situation. And once I found the Facebook group and saw that there were all these other people, battling the same thing as me, it provided me a sense of hope and a sense of community. That being said, joining support groups is your own journey. If you do not feel ready to join a support group, don't do it. Sometimes the support groups can be very heavy. If you hear about a loss or someone's treatment not working or somebody receiving bad news, that can be very disheartening, even if you don't know them. So I do think it is important to find these resources, but also make sure that you are taking care of not only your physical health, but your mental health, because that is a huge part of the battle. And if you need to take a step back from, the Facebook groups and the bad news, that's okay to do.
I think the most important thing I would tell somebody who was newly diagnosed would be to let people see you. We have been talking about how cancer doesn't take away our identity and doesn't define who we are. But I have actually found a lot of purpose and see nothing wrong in finding some identity in your condition, especially if it's something you decide to live with, not despite. And I think changing the tone in how you speak to yourself is just as important as reaching out to other people. And that toxic positivity is real. You don't have to be a Hallmark card all the time just because you think that's what somebody wants you to sound or be like for them. And when you let people in, I think you allow real connection to happen. And through that real connection is where you find the opportunity for growth and change. And we can't find that in only sometimes fake perceived happiness. So embracing and finding hope is just as important to give the darkness the gravity and weight it deserves, because it should be respected, like you said earlier. There can be a balance, and finding your tribe can help you find that for yourself.
So I guess I will say kind of like what I already do say to newly diagnosed patients, because I have come across a few of them outside of the groups. I post videos on TikTok, and it's pretty much just me rambling about how things are going for about 10 minutes. And I have, like, not really given myself, I think, the credit that I should for, I guess, what I'm doing, because I don't feel like it's a lot. But I've had so many people message me on there and say, hey, I'm from such and such area, and I think I have the same diagnosis as you, and I will have just a stream of questions. And I don't really want to be responsible for giving anybody medical advice, but I will tell them, like, the basis of what we all know, which is, like, finding an expert. I'll ask them who they're seeing, if they have an endocrinologist, you know, where are they at in their treatment, just to kind of, like, get a feel for where they're at. And then I do always try to plug them into the support groups. I don't force them, but I always, like, put it out there just in case. I don't know what type of person they are. Some people aren't into that, but for me personally, I feel like it saved my life. And I can only imagine if I hadn't found you guys, like, how isolating that would have been. And to me, somebody reaching out to me shows that they probably are looking to connect anyway with someone. So that's another big reason I just immediately am like, here's the support groups that I'm in. They're wonderful people, and you will find out so much information. I've even sent them, like, links to the conference that I watched before any of my treatment started, and that's how I found out a lot of, and you guys, like, posted that, and it helped me kind of steer me in the right direction. And so I've sent that because I know that if they watch that, it is credible, valuable information, and I don't have to, you know, send them this huge, long, overwhelming paragraph. They can just go watch it. And so I always try to do that. And another big thing for me is, like, now I do talk a lot about the mental health side, because as much as I didn't want to admit it last year, my mental health was not good. And, you know, I'm the type of person who likes to put on a brave face and tough things out. But having, like, all of the resources that I've gotten, like getting into therapy, and especially with somebody who specializes in cancer patients, has been super, super helpful. And so just trying to provide everything, like, that's helped me, even not on, like, the medical side of things, like the mental health side of things, because for me, I didn't even start feeling physically better until my mental health was better. So I do fully believe that those two things go hand in hand. So I would say those are definitely things I try to pass along. And luckily, I've seen some of the people who've reached out to me in the groups now, and so that feels like I'm helping in some sort of way. But yeah, I'm just gonna keep rambling on TikTok and doing what I'm doing. And so.
I would tell a newly diagnosed person that you will be surrounded by urgency and a lot of fear-based language and a lot of stuff you won't understand. So take a beat, pause, breathe. You deserve it. And then find a team, find your experts, find your endocrinologists, find your therapists, find a well-rounded, dynamic team to help you feel safe and grounded that also supports you as you pursue your own health. You know, they're there to help you, but at the same time, you should also feel enabled and capable of driving your own ship. Yeah, I would also say definitely make sure and continue to do things that make you feel fulfilled, that give you purpose, that remind you that you are human and you are not just cancer, that bring you enjoyment, and let those things be not only your lighthouse, but also your anchor. So, yeah.
Kind of might bounce off of what Gracie said. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself absorb the information, because it is a lot right up front. Bring someone, whether it's a spouse, a sister, a best friend, try to bring them to every appointment because you're not going to remember anything that is told to you, especially in the first few weeks of your diagnosis. Advocate for yourself, most definitely, or your loved one. If you're that friend or you're that spouse, advocate for them, especially if they can't advocate for themselves in that specific moment. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask every question that you can possibly think of. Write them down before you go to your appointment. Don't be afraid to ask them. Even if they sound like they're the stupidest question in the world, ask them. Because you know what? Somebody's probably gone through it already. And then if you don't like your answers, get a second opinion. Get a third opinion. Get a fourth opinion. Get a fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth opinion. But keep fighting because there is hope at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, so Melinda is going to come ask one question from the audience.
So we had quite a few questions from the audience. Thank you, everyone. We don't have time to go through all of them today, but what we'll do is organize a virtual situation so we can get answers from everyone from all these questions. So we will be holding on to these. But I thought this was a really nice one that would be a great way to kind of round things out today. So it says, can you speak to the closeness and bond that you all experience in the ACC community? Because it's such a rare cancer. How does this help you keep moving and inspire you to keep going? And before I say that, I do want to say there are several support groups that everybody's been chatting about. Kathleen here is the admin for one of them, which is Adrenal Cancer Connections. So when you hear everybody talking about Facebook groups, that's how a lot of us have met each other, which is like a really incredible platform for bringing people together. So yeah, if anybody would like to go and speak to the closeness and bond that you all experience and how that helps motivate you and keep inspiring you. Tara would like to go first.
I'd like to go first. The closeness that I have, it's an amazing group. Meeting pretty much half of you guys here this weekend has been amazing and so heartfelt to me. Hope, one, you have, you know, when stuff was like crazy with NIH losing funding and stuff, you were like, I'll get you here, you're gonna stay with me, I'll get you to your appointments. You know, our group is, we're sisters, we're brothers, we're family, because we've gone through this and we're going through this. And we're willing to step out and say, hey, if you're gonna be in my area, you can come stay with me. Or if you need to get here, I'm gonna get you here and we're gonna take you to your appointments. And we're just connected, and it's because of this cancer that we're connected. And we all have a different journey, and we all talk about our journeys on the Facebook groups, and we all talk about our journeys to each other. But I love the groups because I can talk to people, especially when I'm feeling down, or if I need to help somebody, or if I just need to talk to Hope and say, hey, I'm having a crappy day, I just send her a text message and say, thanks for listening to me. So it's sorry, my English is horrible right there. It has brought so much love to my very lonely cancer journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's an immediate kinship.
Yes.
The better part of a year for my journey, I felt almost entirely alone. And then other ACC navigators kind of started to trickle into my life, and you know, I landed in this group, and you know, we're here to hold each other's burdens. We're here to cheer each other on, and you know, our stories are all incredibly different, and yet we all relate. And that feels really special, and I hold that really close to my heart because it's so isolating. Like, I can be in a chemo chair in a room full of people with cancer, and I know not one of them knows what I'm going through. So I'm incredibly, incredibly thankful for the Adrenal Cure Collective and these groups.
So I ended up joining the groups only because I was just desperate for information. I hadn't seen a doctor yet or anything other than after that ER and ICU stay. And once I had gotten my biopsy results, I just thought there has to be a Facebook group out there for this. There's a Facebook group for everything. So I just typed in adrenal cancer in the search bar and joined all the ones that were there. And I would say Adrenal Cancer Connections is definitely the one I'm the most active in. And I did talk to a handful of people, like, just in passing on there, but one of the first people that I, like, really talked to was Hope. And, like, I didn't know anything about anything at that time. And she got me on a call and was like, you need to see this person, this person, this person. She put me on a 3-way call with the NIH trying to get me set up. And the lady was like, oh, she has to go through a process. It doesn't really work that way. And I got in anyway. I kind of bypassed. But I will forever remember that day because I was like, wow, these people are just so different, but in a good way. And, you know, no one's ever really gone out of their way to do something like that when I felt so isolated. And I mean, I can't even imagine you guys going through any of this for as long as you guys have without other people, like, to relate to. And so for me, that was really life-changing. And for those of you who have seen me in there since the beginning, y'all know I was asking a ton of questions, like just the smallest things you could think of. And I remember I apologized. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm just new to all this. And everybody was just so welcoming and like, no, that's what we're here for. And now after meeting everybody, it doesn't really feel like I've only been talking to you guys, like, only online. Like, it just immediately felt comfortable and like we had this bond. And I can definitely say I feel a stronger connection with y'all more than like any other like friends that I see on a regular basis. And so it really is a family, and I will forever be grateful for the bonds that I've made. So, and I'm typically a shy person, but half of y'all probably wouldn't really think that now. I'm kind of an open book at this point, and I've learned to be very vulnerable. I've learned to do that over the last year, and I think it's helped me open up a lot more and embrace the feelings. And that's been very, like, in a way, kind of healing for me. So I'm just very thankful for all of you guys. And actually, Kathleen's the first person I met. She came and saw me at the NIH right before my surgery. And so, I mean, just little things like that, that started to kind of trickle into my life that I realized, like, these people are not playing around. Like, we truly do love each other. So, yes.
I heard once that the Cancer Club is something no one wants to be a part of, but once you're in it, the members are amazing. And I completely agree with that sentiment, particularly with the support groups that I am plugged into, because being a young adult cancer survivor is already isolating enough, and then adding on the rarity of our cancer on top of it, I think in other circles, they just don't understand the weight and the magnitude that can come with. And recently I got the criticism. I was mourning a friend who had passed of cancer, and the person in my immediate support circle told me if I wanted to stop grieving people, I should stop making cancer friends, which inadvertently is a really heavy message, because then I in turn am somebody's cancer friend. So that statement and the implied value of those relationships is then changed. So I immediately rebuked the criticism because of bonds like ours. And the information and the knowledge that I've gained through these have literally saved my life. In not just like emotional or spiritual ways, but like physically has saved my life, because I didn't know what to advocate for. And this community is how I think I have kept part of my spirit alive. So I don't think there could be anything more valuable than finding your tribe and being vulnerable with them.
I think the groups are very important because, well, I'd actually like to touch on something that Kathleen said, where it's important to know that other people's stories are not your own. We are all individuals. So I think at first I was desperately clinging onto other people's stories, trying to find similarities to see, is that going to be my fate? Is that what's going to happen to me? But then I took a step back because that can be very hard, because when somebody passes away, you know, we all feel that very heavily, even though we may not know that person or may have never met that person like in person. We are a very small community, and in a sense we are a family. So I feel like we feel each loss very deeply, but in the same breath, we feel each other's successes as well. Whenever somebody shares that they are NED or had, you know, good news or a good scan, you know, the group is there to celebrate their wins and to lift them up and, you know, to bring them joy in a time in our life that is very scary. So I think the group is just a nice place where we can all come and share our grievances, share our concerns, ask questions, and build these connections so that this very rare disease does not feel like you're walking the path alone.
For me, the group has brought me joy. And I did my treatment. I was diagnosed and got my treatment, and I was very lonely. I reached out to Hope a couple of months ago, and I was very, very happy that I had found a group that I could relate to, especially because I moved to the States not too long ago, so I really don't have a community. I moved here, and a year later we were in quarantine, so it was for me it has been very difficult to make friendships. And then going out once the quarantine was done and we were done with COVID, then I get diagnosed with this. So I had my extended quarantine. So now I found this group, and I think it's very important because I have a sense of community, and I see the good energy that everybody has, all the endorphins that we have been producing since we got here, the big hugs, the tears, and I think this is going to have such a beneficial impact in all of us. It's going to be exponential. So I look forward for what we can do in the future as a group, helping other people and helping each other. So if anytime you need me, I am here. Well, I'm in New Jersey, but I can go to
So if you think about life in terms of resources, we have limited resources. We have time, we have money, we have, love that we can offer. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money to bankroll all of us. I don't have enough, I have enough money to take care of myself, and that's about it. But, I can share my connection. I can share what I have learned from other people and what I learned from going through this with Mike. And at the end of the day, the things that matter most are the connections and the love. And, when he was dying, we weren't talking about how much was in our bank account. The stories that were told about him were about him. And remember when you did this funny thing. Remember when Daddy said this. So for me, the group is a place to share love and connection. And at the end of the day, that's all we have.
awesome. Thank you all so much. Especially thank you, Kathleen, for sharing that and being our caregiver perspective. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and we want to just thank everybody for being here. We want to especially thank Dr. Del Rivero and Dr. Fojo for being here. We would also like to thank Esteve for sponsoring today. We truly appreciate your belief in our mission. We would love to thank our panelists. Your stories are truly impactful, and I'm so grateful for all of you for sharing. We also want to thank our, we just heard how important the community is in this fight. So we want to thank Kathleen as one of the administrators for ACC Connection. So please give a round of applause, because without them, I wouldn't know them. We wouldn't even be able to do this. So we're very grateful for having that resource available to us to get us through the dark times and the good times, and for giving us a place to share. And also the other Adrenal Cancer Warriors group on Facebook. We are appreciative of that group as well. And everybody for being here, for your support. We are so grateful. And then lastly, I would like to thank my team one more time. You guys are wonderful. We have Melinda, we have Sarah, Omega, Natalie, and Nicole, who's not here, and Olivia. Where is she at? There she is. Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. Hold on. Got it. And so anyway, I love my team and our ambassadors. You all are what drives this. You guys are what keeps us going. Our ambassadors are, the messengers. They're out there, they're spreading the word to their families, to their friends. They're reposting. They believe in us. They believe in this mission. They've gotten behind us so quickly in these last 4 months. And we can't do it without you. And this is just the beginning. Like I've been saying, we're going to keep going, and we're going to continue to raise our voices and the awareness and funding for better treatment options and one day a cure. So thank you all for being here. And to our sponsors, I'm going to try to think of them. I should have them in my head by now, but I'm fried. My detained brain. Moffitt Cancer Center, Pure Pro Aesthetics, Esteve, RM Factory. She's gone. She had to get on a plane, but RM Factory, our title sponsor, we're so grateful for you and for making this entire weekend possible. Her sponsorship really did drive and cover this entire weekend for the most part outside of today. So we're so grateful for that sponsorship. Montgomery Parks, Plum Construction, and Floriana and Gatorade. Woo woo! And speaking of Gatorade, we have our 5K tomorrow, so we're looking forward to seeing everyone there. You don't have to walk, you don't have to run. I'm gonna actually sit and chill and greet everyone. But we do have your swag bags and your shirts here. If you're running the race, you can pick it up now. Or you can pick it up tomorrow at the race. If you're watching this and you're going to come out and join us, you can pick them up tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And lastly, I want to say one last thing to our virtual people that are racing, our virtual participants. I am so truly grateful for all that you guys have done, for the fundraising that you guys have done. I don't know how much we're at, but we've raised such a significant amount of money in the last few months. And so for everybody across the world, and we have people in other countries that are racing, which is truly heartwarming and exciting. We're just so grateful for your belief in this, for getting behind it. And you guys are seen, understand that we see you and we cheer you on in our group. But I want to let you guys know that we're cheering as you cross that finish line tomorrow. Every step we take is a step closer to a cure, and that's for all of us. So we're truly grateful. Thank you, and I love you all. Sarah, let's go take a quick picture. All right, one
One more second. There's nothing